we will officially begin our meeting of the advisory board at 7:03 p.m. And roll call has been done. You all. Oops, my bad.
No, it's fine.
First order of business is approving the August 18th minutes. Are there any comments or questions? Do we have a motion to approve? Okay.
Second.
Sorry. Minutes approved.
We can take turns.
Take it easy, it's not a competition.
I just figured I'd do something at the beginning of the meeting, then I can just escape for the rest of it.
Are there any members of the public who wish to be heard at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to new business. Tracy and I have no recollection of whether we asked for an icebreaker volunteer last month, but assuming that we just didn't do it, I will ask, at any point in your life, what is a career path that you might have taken but did not?
Oh, I can start that one. Which is unusual, but this is like easy for me. After college, I got a job as a bread baker. It was up before Collins, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was like an artisan bread shop, and the person that started the business hired a French master baker and trained us all. And I was just fascinated with the work, and I loved doing it, but it just didn't seem like a long-term thing, but was very satisfying. I could have seen doing that as a career somehow.
Yeah.
If I had money where I didn't actually need to earn money. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Do you still bake bread?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Excellent.
Well, I would have done something in horticulture.
Wow.
I love maybe a landscape,
Yeah.
but more horticulture, more growing the plants, not just designing the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about, when I was in college, I thought about possibly majoring in botany. But the liberal arts kind of drew me away. And that's one of the things I like about being a librarian is that, you get everything.
Yeah.
True. Get exposed to everything. You have to know a little bit about everything.
I was always torn between being a lawyer and a librarian. And being a lawyer won out. But now, if I had my druthers, I wish I'd majored in art history. But if I choose a new career, I think I would have liked to be a nurse practitioner.
Any particular corner of that field?
No, I think a lot of it's, a lot of stuff that they do is interesting, and I think that the relationship, it's like if a doctor and a doctor comes in, but I've had nurse practitioners come and say, here's what you really want to do, and here's this, and here's that, and I like that communication aspect of it.
Katie or Nicole?
I did mock trial in high school, and I always thought I wanted to be a judge, or actually there's a quote in a local newspaper that I said I wanted to be a Supreme Court justice, but I didn't want to be a lawyer. and yeah, you can't do that. So I actually helped my friends study for the ALSUPs, and I never took it myself.
For me, I've had like 5 career changes, so I feel like a lot of those, because I was a like, I mean, I was a teacher, I worked in nonprofits, I eventually became a software engineer, and then in between all of that, I went back to school very briefly for like a semester, thinking I was going to do teaching English as a second language and hopefully doing it abroad. And then I realized how expensive graduate school was going to be for that, and that was my eventual switch into nonprofit briefly, and then software engineering. So I don't know if I would actually want to go back to any of, like, teaching might actually be something that I would potentially do again. And now that I know that I actually can hang out with small children instead of like high schoolers, which is what I was teaching before, like maybe I would do that, but it sounds like a lot of work.
Well, I'm similar to you, Nicole. I've had a number of careers and different jobs, and I contemplated a number of careers. One of the ones that keeps coming back to me is teaching. I have taught, but I was not a career teacher. I didn't get a degree in education. I didn't, stay with the same school or the same group of kids for more than a year or so. So I think I would have been a good teacher. Tracy, you were the last one.
I think this is a hard question for me to answer because I feel like, especially throughout my time here, I've grown to feel like this is where I wanted to actually end up. It's not where I started wanting to, like, kind of the trajectory of my career. Honestly, when I was like in college age, I was not really sure where I wanted to end up. Still really kind of discovering all of that. I've always wanted to be an author, a published author, and I've got a few things published, but not like a novel or anything. So that's something I would still aspire to do, but the time putting into it has just been hard to juggle that. So I think I've just kind of put a lot more effort into kind of growing this as my dream career.
I love that.
Nobody wanted to be an astronaut or a cowboy?
No, I mean, I was thinking about your botany, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I was a kid, my dad's a retired optometrist, and out of all my siblings, I was the only one that expressed interest in like following in daddy's footsteps until I got older and took science, and I'm like, well, this is not going to work because I wasn't good at any of it because it involved math. Most science involves math. That was the problem.
Yeah, botany doesn't.
Well, I should have chosen. Maybe optometry doesn't either, but I just didn't give it a chance. I was like, well, this obviously isn't going to work.
Yeah.
I thought about and orthodontics.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to be in people's mouths.
In their eyeballs?
Yes, but you're not like there.
You're not in their
That's not the surgical form of
Yes.
eye care,
You're
right?
not
You use
ophthalmologist.
technology to do it, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not too late. It probably is though.
That's probably too. Has anybody seen, there was a, now I can't remember the name of the guy's show, but he quoted this French talk show guy, and the questions he always, it was Bernard Pivot, and the questions he always asked were what career that you not doing now would you like to do? And then the second question was, what would you definitely not like to do? And whenever I would hear that question, I'd say, dentist!
It's except for the people part. Like,
Well, yeah.
teeth interest me, but not everything
I don't like the people part. That's why I want to work with plants. Yes, it's,
Right.
it's very interesting.
Good
That was a
question.
good one. Everyone has an answer this month. I like it. Do we have a volunteer for next month? Who hasn't gone in a while? Who likes to be creative?
I'll do it.
Yay, thank you. Okay.
I'm gonna ask John for a bread recipe.
That's going to be your.
favorite
That's going to be your.
bread. Your favorite bread memory.
Icebreaker.
Bread recipe.
Favorite recipe?
The New York Times no knead bread recipe. Public comment procedure, review and discussion. So I think we have a draft to discuss. Thank you so much.
Do you want me to bring this up on the screen?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
if
because
we
I
don't have
can't,
print.
I could not get it on.
No, that's
my phone.
fine. That might help.
It's too small on my phone.
Yeah. I kept trying to open in some docs thing and then I couldn't close it. It was okay.
So, just for the benefit of reminding everyone, last month, we discussed briefly having something written down, something like a procedure or ground rules for anyone who does in the future show up to give public comment, and thought it would be good to look at what council does and maybe some other groups that any of us have been a part of, and there were some good ideas voiced in the meeting, and then Barbara offered graciously to put some words together for us.
Just for discussion.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's hard to start with a blank page.
Yeah. Well, I kind of felt that this is kind of very unfriendly.
Okay.
And do we need to be quite as strict as council does? I understand why council has to do this, because they get people coming with very controversial issues, and they get a lot of people, and they've got to limit people's time.
Right.
But, you know, if somebody read this to me before I got a chance to speak, I would feel like it was very unfriendly, and I think that doesn't reflect well on the library, since we're a library advisory board. We want, I mean, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that, and I don't have to speak, but, you know. Anyway, I was going to say, I think what I read, this is just the points we need to have, how maybe it's phrased, could be a part 2 of this.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're thinking. I didn't, but I was more in tune to what do we need to make sure we're stable.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
whether it's written differently, I wasn't personally
That's a
worried
good
about right
point.
now.
So we have content, and then we
Yeah.
have sort of the wordsmithing
Yeah.
side of things.
Yeah.
And to my mind, this content reflects what we discussed at the
Yeah.
meeting last month. But I would like to hear from anybody if there was anything on your mind, content-wise, that isn't in this draft. And then for you, Charlene, are you able to point to what doesn't feel friendly?
Specifically, members of the public may not, well, that's okay, but the board does not respond to comments or questions.
Okay.
You know, it seems like we could at least, and we might have questions for them. So it seems like we could have a little bit more of a discussion if anybody ever shows up.
Yeah, and I mean, I was trying to think of the best way to say this, and it wasn't the best way to say it. It's
Yeah.
what I borrowed from everything else I saw. But what they're
Yeah.
trying to say is, we're not going to vote. on
Or
what-
even bring motions or anything.
And
Yeah.
because, I guess the thing is, because the board still would have to have an issue in front of it and a discussion and vote on it. And so nobody could say, yeah, we hear you, I agree with you, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think the idea was trying to be, don't think that if you come in here and suggest something, that you're going to leave with an answer.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And sometimes there could be an answer.
Oh, yeah, good point.
There could be an answer to some questions, but some there's not. I mean, if somebody comes in here and asks you to ban a book, you know,
Right.
that's one thing. If they come in and just say, we'd like to make sure you're spending more money on, you know, learning or adult literacy, that's another.
Yeah.
And so I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the idea is, you can't come in here and put something on the agenda and get the board to act on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Could it just say something like,
Yeah.
the board may or may not respond to comments or questions? Right now it says.
That was gonna be my suggestion, because I think, I think it's very possible that someone might come and we might actually want to have a discussion with somebody. So I think making the language a little bit more, please be aware that the board may not respond to comments or questions, I think might be a little bit more open for us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more like,
Wonder-
people can't come in and ask you are you a Democrat? It's like, there's no responsibility for the board to answer any question they don't want to.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
But
saying
we could leave it open.
agendas are set prior to each meeting, and there may not be adequate time for an immediate response. Something like that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that there is a practical truth in that.
Yeah.
Where depending on who shows up wanting to talk about something, it might be actually really engaging and provocative for us, and we already have our meeting set, and we are not going to shoehorn a new topic into a set meeting, especially with the whole public, the agenda gets posted beforehand with the topics, and so in that sense, it's not fair to just
No, I
pile one on
wasn't.
the top.
No, I wasn't suggesting that we would let them hijack the agenda.
Right. And
But just that.
well, the other thing is to remember that none of us can speak. If someone comes in here and has a question, you can't speak for the board until it's become an item and we've all spoken about it and voted on it.
Yeah.
So none of us can answer,
Right.
well, here's how the board feels about this or that, unless it's something you've already done. And people might not also understand.
And I do like the parallel with how council addresses those things, because if you don't know in advance what that comment is going to be,
Right.
to say thank you, we've heard and recorded your comments, and that might pop up on a next month's agenda, something like that.
Yeah.
Any other content?
I wondered about the 3 minutes as well, and yet at the same time, I understand what everybody has kind of already implied here, that we want somebody to be prepared and be brief, and we also want to reserve the right when we need to pivot back towards the agenda. But 3 minutes, I think, is also, especially if we might want to have a discussion with them, a brief discussion with them, I think 3 minutes is also strict. But then again, I don't know how to phrase it differently, that, we may have to, table our conversation and move back towards the agenda or something like that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think it's trying to say, you have 3 minutes to say whatever you're going to say or ask, and then the board, the agenda's set, the board may or may not respond to anything you say. And it may be tabled for a future agenda.
But then again, I think also.
But if we interject, I don't know if we have to say, if we decide, we should talk about this,
Well, it's like
I don't think then we're now confined to 3 minutes. They get their 3 minutes, and we wouldn't stop in the middle. We would have them finish their 3 minutes before there's any engagement.
I think the other reason there's a time limit is because there's some people you want to talk to all night, and some people you don't. And it's a public meeting, and anybody can come and talk, and you can't say, if we like you, you can talk for 25 minutes, but if we don't like you, you can talk for 2 minutes. And so, an outward, maybe just having an outward time limit and saying, no one can talk more than whatever. And then that way, you're not cutting, because the city council's like, whether they like you or not, you don't get to, they can't just say, well, we like you, you can stand up here and talk all day. So.
I like the way this is worded, because it says, please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. It's not really in stone.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It is
That's a good
flexible.
point.
Right. It doesn't say, we're going to cut you off, or in no instance can you go beyond. We're just saying, it's a request, not a mandate.
But if it's gone past 3 minutes, then you're within the prerogative of saying, we need to get back to the agenda.
Right.
So you need to wrap it up or whatever.
Right.
You know.
And I'm trying to imagine an exception, but I would love to be convinced, like make the case for where we would engage in a discussion right then in the moment,
Yeah.
beyond like asking clarifying questions.
Yeah.
Because I'm struggling to think of an example where we would do that and it would be totally fine with, our procedures and so on.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think you'd want to.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that it doesn't have to be stated here. I think as almost an internal agreement among the board really would be, even if you don't understand what someone's saying, let them finish their 3 minutes, but then jot down what you want to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think we're saying, and that's not going to include any comments or questions we want to ask.
No,
I think it's just more
they're-
saying,
they're-
if you're going to come and make a statement,
Yeah.
come prepared,
Right.
don't
Yeah.
come and talk for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I've
Right.
been to meetings where people
Yeah, yeah.
have done that, and it's really hard to cut them off.
Oh,
Yep.
totally.
Yep.
Yeah. Could we?
So I have a question. This doesn't include the Friends Committee or maybe even members of the Friends, is that right?
No, because there
That's
are,
kind of the one thing I was thinking of, is that when we have folks from, especially from the Friends leadership,
Yeah, that would be under reports and information.
yeah, they're not public comments, they're invited guests. And so they're invited.
what if it is just a Friends member, or for somebody, for a Friends member who's thinking of applying for a board? And so I was thinking of like the softer examples of when we might have somebody that we might not want to be so strict.
Well, we discussed that, like the whole come and check out the board thing. Someone, I think it was you, John, gently let me know that that's to go and sit and observe a board meeting. That isn't to go jump in the middle and experience a
For
board
sure.
meeting
Right,
as a
and
member.
Katie, were you here at that meeting? I mean, one of the reasons we kind of came up with this is we did have a gentleman come in, sit down, and then insert comments through the rest of the meeting.
And
that
the board
was,
chair did not.
No,
and it was not appropriate,
Yeah.
because,
no, I was not here for that. I was here for some others
right,
where we had a member with the somebody from the county who had some funding suggestions and kind of raised her hand very appropriately throughout. And then I was even thinking just not necessarily, I was even thinking just like Friends members where you might, But yeah, no, I've experienced the opposite end of things. So no, I did not experience that one.
right. And I think the other thing just we need to remember is they're public meetings, and we can't treat people differently
Right.
because they're friendly, we like them, we know them.
No, that's true.
So,
But those folks, like the Friends members, it's very likely that there will be some communication prior to the meeting,
yeah.
that they plan to attend or they
That's
want to
That we could
speak
put
on
we
something.
could put them on the
And we
agenda.
could, right, we
Yeah.
could make an agenda item. But even to just insert, like, please try to,
Right.
softens that line a little bit to make it clear, like, nobody's
Yeah.
going to get the shepherd's hook.
Yeah,
and-
yeah, we're not going to be sitting here.
No.
We could even say, please keep your comments brief.
Yes,
That would be one
yes.
thing. And then that would always leave it up to you
Yeah.
as the chair to say, okay, we think that's, brief enough.
Okay, so you're not advocating for a specific
No, I just threw that out just to
Okay.
say, because whatever it is, we need to be equal.
Right.
And it can't be based on, and I know you guys think I'm crazy, but really,
No.
at any minute, you could have somebody come in who's mad about something and decide they want to hijack a meeting. And
That's
so,
why I like a number.
Yeah, okay.
Because
That's actually what I was
this
just
isn't
about to say. I agree.
consistent.
I don't think you're crazy, and I yes, maybe even for it to say approximately 3 minutes or something like that. Yeah, I
Right.
don't think you're crazy at all.
Yeah.
Well,
I
maybe.
think you need a number, and then.
I think having a number, like, I mean, I know we can't treat anyone differently, but I think having a number is something nice to point to when, if somebody is
Right.
going on for a long time.
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
think,
exactly.
I think it's hard because if you do let somebody go on for a long time and then the next person you need to shorten, like, that's when it gets a little more subjective and you need to avoid that. But having a number that at least you can point to, and we don't necessarily need to be strict about it all the time, might be okay.
Or even if you want to say, please keep your initial comments or something like that, so you can, that you know.
Let's just leave it.
Okay. I think if we accompany that, keep your comments to whatever, and then change this thing to make it clear that people might be asking you questions and will be happy to, you know,
Right.
learn more from you. And
Right.
that won't be, that's not included in your time.
Yeah.
Right, that, exactly.
Clarifying questions
Right.
from the board are not considered part of.
Part of what you had, Jamie, I thought was good, something about, please keep in mind the agenda set and something like the board may or may not respond in
Yeah.
the meeting to your questions or comments.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that please be aware that the board may not respond to comments or questions. There is already an agenda set for that particular
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
So it's not just saying, well, we just don't respond to you. It's saying we've already got an agenda, and, we can always make it clear to them if it was a topic that we're interested in, that we might set it for a future agenda.
Are there other, like, substantive points, though, beyond? I mean, it could also be something that you feel is not necessary in here, but mostly looking for anything we would want the public or ourselves to know, our future replacements to know about public comment and the process.
So I had one thought, and I think because the city council, and this is even somewhat new, that they require residency for public comment. I don't think,
But you don't have to be, you just have to be a resident of Colorado to be a library.
I'm correct. So what I was going to say is I think it's fine to ask, we can ask someone to indicate whether they're a
Yes.
resident of Longmont or not, but I just want to make sure that we agree that I wouldn't require that for the board, for this board, like city
Right.
council, that would be a differing rule to me
Yeah.
because,
We talked about that last month.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, I put that in
We
because
touched on that.
somebody said should we require them to be.
Well, and it doesn't say it's required. It
No,
just says
yeah.
identify yourself.
But I'd
and
like to
whether.
know where you're from.
Yeah.
Well, and
yeah.
one of the reasons I put that in is because after the meeting, I went back and read all those next door comments.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
noticed that many of those comments that they were making about the library were from people who do not live in Longmont. And I thought it would be interesting to, it's an interesting fact if, someone with a bucket of grass, right? Or is it somebody from the community that's really, got a concern?
Maybe you could just say before you begin, please identify yourself and where you reside.
What about, what we really care about is, do we want to know if they're a Longmont Library card holder?
Well, you ask that as well.
I'm trying to think of, someone who might have their own agenda, coming to give comment. And I don't know that where you reside matters to me as much as whether or not you have an active card. But I don't have a problem asking both. Because if someone
Yeah, I kind of like that.
to give comment about library business, and they were Longmont residents, but they did not use the library, would that put those comments in a different context?
For sure.
I think we can ask them to state it. It's not saying it's required.
Mm-hmm. Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
I don't think I have any other comments. It was just the residency thing that I wanted to bring up.
Anybody else? And I did think that you can stay for the rest of the meeting, but don't talk. That's an awful rude too, but you know, trying to,
I think
Well, you
that
could, sorry.
Go.
No, go.
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 No, I talk all the time.
And I don't.
You're very, very
Okay.
shy.
Okay. I think, again, I think that what we're trying to express is true.
what happens?
May not speak past the public comment period or a top agenda item, whatever you want to call it. And that's also fine the way it is.
To observe. the rest
Observe,
of the
see?
meeting.
And that's why you should have spoken first.
And observe the rest of the
I mean, be
meeting.
nice.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Don't be
good way
nice,
to put
just-
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
That's better.
Speak. I don't want those words in there. Yeah. That feels very like,
Yeah. Well, we could say instead that only members of the board may speak.
But that's not true. Well,
that also
and-
feels like very pious.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I
Like,
suppose.
And
Yeah.
it's not true because we can have invited
Well, we have
guests.
invited guests, yeah, that's true.
I think, however, Jamie said, I mean, you're welcome to stay and observe the rest of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then if somebody
That's clear.
jumps in, you can just say, oh, you know.
That's when you
Observe.
don't speak.
Could you say something like public comment is only permitted during the public comment section or something like that?
And that's what I was trying to get at before, that Nicole
Yeah.
stated better, but I think either is fine with me. I like that and I like observe. Okay.
I mean, we should have this problem, right? Like,
yeah, like how many times have people come? Not since I've been here, isn't that one?
you are welcome to stay and observe the rest of the meeting. Utter silence.
Now you're sending me.
I don't know. I mean, look, if it becomes a problem and we regret not putting something more strongly worded in that section,
You can put it in.
we can always revisit
Yeah,
and
this isn't
make
like
an
a
amendment. This isn't,
charter or
it's not in the bylaws, it's really
Yeah.
just a procedure
Yeah.
that we agree to, and I'm really just thinking about, well, I'm thinking about all of us who are currently on the board, but also for posterity or the future, this onboarding, amorphous onboarding piece of like, well, how does this go? How does this work? Because, you know, if I had read something like this, maybe I wouldn't have let that guy talk so much.
Well, you know, and maybe just the fact, if you say at the beginning, keep your comments and forgive the
Yeah.
time limit, that might have clued it
Yeah.
in. Like, oh, I guess I shouldn't be keeping what I'm commenting.
I mean, that was one time, and I remember that I was like warmly inviting him and like pulling the chair out, right? So
Yeah.
like there was
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that individual
No.
participating at the extent that he felt comfortable participating, because I was like rolling out the red carpet for him because I
Yeah.
thought that would be fine.
Yeah.
But certainly you could see that if we did that all the time, there are people who would take
Yeah, take
advantage.
advantage.
And wouldn't maybe not be as congenial and warm.
And there's only so many seats at the table, you know.
Correct. So it feels like this is like 90% there at least.
Yeah.
I think we could take out, I think we could take out everything after the meeting. I do think we need to tell them it's being recorded, because you're supposed to tell
Oh,
people
yes,
that it's being
yes.
recorded. And that what you say is a public record,
Mm-hmm.
because I think they need to know that.
I don't know that there's anything I want to take out.
Well, I think we could take out, though, that you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. And I think being aware that the board doesn't respond to comments, I think if we're going to massage this thing
Mhm.
up here and say, you know, we have an agenda and we need to keep to it, and so
Mhm.
we ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. or
Yes,
less.
yes.
And then we don't have to say
The rest.
the rest.
So we can do one of two things right now. we can spend time in this meeting wordsmithing further to the point where we have a draft we feel like we can vote on. Or we can make sure that we've captured the notes and suggestions that have been offered, and then either have Barbara or someone
I'd
else.
be happy to take this back to
Okay.
discussion.
And come back next month. I don't think that it's, you
It's
know,
not urgent.
No.
super risky that if we lose a month, but it might, I don't know. I don't love to wordsmith things under pressure, so
I don't like to write things by hand.
that too.
So I'm happy to take it home and massage it and leave it home. But it's like, you know, it's like you have to take a stab
Yeah, yeah,
at
I mean, there's that fine line between being
Yeah.
kind and.
Right, and I don't
Firm.
think it's a huge emergency, but I just think it's something really good to have in our back pocket.
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with that? Does anybody want to say, no, I want this done now?
Right, or if someone else would like to wordsmith it, then that's fine too.
Make it friendly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for doing that
You're welcome.
outside of meeting time. I appreciate it. And do you feel that your notes are sufficient, or would you need Tracy or me or
I think
somebody?
I got it,
Okay.
and I think if I have any problems, maybe Tracy, while she's pondering her next career move,
Sure. Sounds good.
helping me recall. what was said.
Yeah, I could watch the recording too.
I could put it online. Transcription.
Okay, I'll stop
Okay.
sharing this now.
Thank you.
Because I think whatever on the next one, there's another.
And I think we
Document.
can tighten it, but like that was a pretty concise piece of writing based on what we discussed. So like I'm very happy with that. And now we have another thing to talk about, another piece of housekeeping, which is our interview questions. And these are the questions that are asked in board member interviews, whenever we're looking to fill a vacancy. My understanding is that the set that was used for everyone currently on the board has been around a little while. And so we're coming up on another season of filling vacancies on boards and commissions, and we currently don't have any, but it would be nice to have this sorted out before we need it. So,
Can I
everyone-
ask where
yes.
this came from? I mean, did the city give this to
Yes.
us? Did we write it?
Council clerk, city clerk. And I think board members, past board members, must have given input on that set. I don't think
Oh, I would think so.
anybody
But
in
it
the
wasn't
city
in any of our time.
made it up. Yeah.
It's just, it's been long-standing.
Yeah. Can I ask some questions about
Yeah.
the stuff that comes at the beginning, purpose of the board? Because I was a little taken aback to see that one of the primary functions was to prepare a long-range plan for library services.
That's why I think this is very old.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, but that's not even in our bylaws or our chart. What is it? Is it a bylaw?
Yeah, my thought on this is, and this board can do, I mean, the goal here is to review the interview questions.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that
But-
you need any of this other stuff at all, but that's just my nickel of input.
Well,
I had a similar question though. I'm curious where these came from, because did they come from a previous iteration of the advisory board?
Yes.
Probably.
And so previously the advisory board was preparing an annual written report to city council and things like that?
And that very well could have been, because previous city managers or council members wanted annual reports from all the departments, and that's not a city practice anymore. In fact,
Okay.
it's actually almost discouraged. We prepare an annual report anyway, as you know, but it's really for us and to market and to put on our website, but there's no official role in presenting that to council or the city. So this is probably pretty old, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure where this lives.
If a past library director.
I don't know. I think the decision is whether you need all this at the beginning, and if so, it's got to be completely wiped clean and started over.
Well, I guess.
Well, and
I mean, this is a lot of information. In here, it's really just, are these good questions to be asking, in my
I mean,
opinion.
maybe it needs to be two separate documents, because I think it would be helpful, like when I was applying
Yeah.
to be on the board, I really did not have a very clear picture of
Right.
what the board did and, you know, that kind of thing.
This
And
might
that would be
live on the city website, so it might be worth
That
having
may be-
something.
Yeah, it would be worth having
Yeah.
something, because then, you know, you can look that up when you're considering whether you want to apply, and then have the questions as something completely separate. Because those are for the people doing the interview.
Can you scroll down a little bit? I think one of my beefs with the questions,
All the way to the questions.
yeah, just to look at, just to scan them very briefly, is that they either repeat or it's a variation of what's on the application, like what you're
Well, that's true.
asked
Yeah.
to answer. I'd have to go back and look at mine, but I felt like,
Oh,
why are
that's
you
true.
asking
This
me
is hard to do without
interview?
looking at the application at the same time, the application questions. The other thing I remember sitting in those interviews and looking at this rubric and not understanding why those first three questions didn't have like a scoring thing as well. Like, why are there 3 questions up here and then these 4 questions down here? But that's a really good point, Jamie. This is kind of hard to do without the interview, without the application questions
That's
too.
not, right, like I want to look at the application questions. I'm not saying that you should have the person's application open as you're going through these questions. I don't know how I feel about that, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, we shouldn't be in an interview situation asking if that person is an active library patron. Like, that should be
Exactly.
like one of the
And it shouldn't be
Yeah.
that
fundamental
it's a plus.
filter.
Well, up here it says it's a plus, and then here they
A
want to
plus?
And then it's where notes from
That's
director.
what that
It says
is,
an
a
active
plus?
library patron is a plus.
Oh,
And
no.
it's like that ought to be like the
No.
question ought to be what
It's
is
an
your
expectation.
involvement? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a plus.
The
it's
question
an
should be what is your
What is your
involvement?
Yes.
That's,
What
Yes.
do you know about it? What's your participation? And then this last
Yes.
question, what do you see as the role of a modern library and how's that different from libraries? That sounds like that ought to be in a library science course.
Yeah.
Didn't I make up questions?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, these
And
are
then-
just here. And even in the couple years I've been here, 1 or 2 interviews for sure, the current board just wrote their own questions.
Okay.
Like, there's no requirement. It's just that this is what exists.
Yeah.
And this whole document may be posted on the city council site where all the boards and commissions are listed. I think that's the consideration, that
Yeah.
if something's live there, then
Yeah.
we need to update
Well,
this.
and that's probably why they're asking us to.
When have you joined? Was it in January?
No, and I wasn't asked any of these questions.
No, because
I don't even know. I think I
I think
was,
I
but.
didn't
And
like it.
what do you see as the biggest need in the near future for the library? Well, before you're on the board, you don't know. That was, you know, one of the things.
Those are really, yeah. I also am not a fan of the question, what do you see as your role as a member of an advisory board? Because there is that's kind of determined already, you know, like what the advisory board does.
Unless what they
Exist.
mean is to try to get a sense from the person about what they think they're signing up for, so you can kind of help explain what they're actually signing up for.
That was actually, I think I was asking all of these questions, and I remember, Katie, I think you were asking me these questions, and I was like, just yammering on about what I was going to do on the advisory board, and you were like, oh, okay, well, it's completely different than that. So it's actually kind of nice to have. I wonder if that actually should be an explanation way before someone's in an interview.
Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
To me, the question, what's your motivation for volunteering to be on the library advisory board, gets to the heart of like, what background and expertise do you think you're bringing to the table here? You know, I understand what you're saying, Barb, that question could be kind of trying to eke out more information. I think first question kind of ekes out that information that's relevant to, like, you know, their you know, what their expertise and niche in life is that they're going to be bringing to the board.
Yeah.
But that's actually what I was going to suggest as an alternative for that second question, is like less of what do they see as their role as a member, but more what could you bring to the advisory board? Because it's a little different than what is the motivation. Like there's
Yes.
the motivation, and then it's like
Sure.
what skills or whatever.
That's
And I
true.
think that is the question in the application, though. It's like what skills can you bring or something like that. I can't remember what the application was.
I think so.
I remember
It's on your terms.
I asked our newest board members, hello, welcome. Having a lively discussion
Oh, wonderful.
about interview questions. I do believe I asked about something about diversity, equity, or inclusion in relation to the library. And I would still.
I can't remember what I said, but.
Yeah, we said great stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're here.
Because I'm here, yeah.
We said yes.
Well, because I remember talking about working with unhoused people, and that came up somehow.
Me, Jamie, that I do like the question, how can libraries be a vehicle for more social
Yes.
equity in their communities? I'm a really big fan of that. And I think that like gets to the heart of, at least for me, the kind of, that kind of stuff that I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. What about an essential services question? Something about promoting the library as an essential service, or what is your experience with the library as an essential service?
Part of why I like social equity is because it's a little bit more open to interpretation to how they're going to respond. I'm not a huge fan in an interview of kind of like
Not
leading
instead
the
of.
horse to water, so to speak. You know, I kind of like to keep it a little bit more open to letting them talk and to
Yeah.
me asking, specifically using the phrase essential service is maybe putting the words in their mouth a little bit too much for me.
Okay. I wasn't suggesting instead of, in addition to, because I'm with you on the social.
Yeah, I know you were including it, but to me, it's a little bit too on the nose, I guess.
But I think a question asking, what do you think the role of the library in the community should be?
Yes.
Is something.
Much,
So like the
I
last
like that because it's
question,
open-ended.
like the fourth question, but more, more personalized for this library
Yeah,
in this moment.
yeah.
I actually wonder even if like asking a question, even using like social equity or something like that is the phrase. Like I wonder if you could ask more questions like how can the library serve the needs of all residents of Longmont or something like that, to kind of suss out a little bit more of like which direction might they go with that.
Sure. Yeah. That's true. It's even more open-ended than the way it's phrased right now. I just like open-ended questions in an interview, I do.
Yeah.
Well, because I think that's how you find things out. And I kind of, going back up to these 3 bullet points, I think they're not saying you should ask people these 3 questions. I think what they're trying to say is in your interview, without asking them directly, kind of see what they're what is their motivation and what experience do they have? Kind of not asking people directly, but from their responses, kind of figuring out how plugged in they are and what do they know. I think.
Yes, but except for those two, the motivation and experience, I don't know, I kind of like those two as a direct question.
I think that actually ought to just be on the application, on the, although.
I'm wondering if it is. I'm trying to pull up my application to see if I can find it.
What
Because
about
I'm
a
kind of thinking
question?
it is.
Is it too on the nose to bring up freedom of information or freedom of access to information?
I wonder in that case if bringing up something like the library's, I've forgotten what it is, like the library's mission or something, like a mission statement or something like that, and asking how they interpret it, because I think that's true.
I actually like that idea, of course.
I mean, I like the idea too of finding out if they even know now that we have, mission statement.
Well, that'd be great, and that might come out in an answer, right? But I think kind of give the mission statement.
Give the mission statement.
Mission
Or
statement
the-
should be on this document, should
Yeah.
be on the application.
Right, it
Yeah.
should just be there so that
Yeah,
then you'll kind of feel out whether they read it, and,
yeah.
or if it's on the fly or whatever. I'll say for this top part, if this is to be,
Yeah.
which if it's going to exist, it needs to change. But actually, when I read it, the purpose of the board, at least the first paragraph, is fine. You just don't need any of these bullet points at all.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, it's to provide guidance to city council
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
on behalf of residents. So you could still rephrase it, but you don't need all these bullet points. That was from a period of time when it just doesn't make sense
So
now.
what you're saying is none of these are charges
No.
that are given
Yeah.
to the library board by the city council or by the city of
No.
Longmont.
Yeah. The purpose of the board is to provide guidance to the city council.
And I don't hate the content of the second paragraph. I wouldn't call it needs from director.
No.
And I would probably massage it a bit, to use Barbara's phrasing, because what it is it gets at expectations and desired qualities or qualifications, and whether that belongs in this document or again on the application website.
Instead of needs from the director, you could just call it who should apply.
Yes, I love it.
You're welcome.
It's so friendly, John.
Because that's really what it is, right?
Yes.
Who do we want?
Who are we looking
It's
for?
not just the director.
Yeah.
Hopefully you all want the same thing. So.
What do they see as their role as a member of an advisory board? Does it matter?
Yeah, I couldn't have told you that before I got on the board, I just wanted to come and participate and contribute.
Right.
And I wouldn't know what my role was gonna be, because I didn't know what you guys all did in the meeting.
Well, I think it's kind of our role to say what the role is
Yeah.
to be part of this board. And then we could ask you questions about how does that meet with what you're willing
What
to
you
bring.
could bring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Where are we looking at?
What
were
right
you
at
just
this
talking about?
moment?
Yeah.
What we
That-
want to learn about candidates. The
Okay.
second
the
bullet.
questions.
Yeah,
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
they see? Okay.
yeah.
So it sounds like several of us see a value in updating all of this language, not just the questions.
Yeah.
for the purposes of formality. Would someone like to move? I can move things, right? I move that we update this entire document, not just the questions.
A second.
And now we get to talk about process, because we're coming up on 8 o'clock and we know we're not going to have a beautiful, pristine final draft tonight.
Well,
I'm too tired.
Can I just, yeah.
Go ahead.
And we always seem to know, and we always say these things for the end of the meeting too lately. One of the things in the minutes was that we had asked that there be something put on the website about the library board.
I looked, and we do have it on the website.
Okay.
It's under the About Us section of the library's website, and it says Library Advisory Board.
Yeah.
Where that takes you, though, is to the city council and boards and commissions, which is a whole different website.
Right. Well, what I'm thinking is, shouldn't that also kind of be part of what we're writing here? If we want something on the website saying, here's what we do, should this also be part of producing something like that?
I think so.
Yes.
I think what we could do, because we already have a placeholder for the advisory board on our website, where this could be included, not the questions obviously, but just whatever is changed,
Right.
and then also link to Intergut, whatever it's called. What's the city?
The city.
Anyway, where all the boards and commissions are listed.
Yes, and I will say, I just copied and pasted all of the pertinent things from both city code and from that website on all the city committees to the chief. And so it's very comprehensive. So just really should be added to this document to help us introduce what the board does to any applicants. And also, hopefully, I mean, in order to get to the application, I imagine they would have had to have reviewed the boards and commissions section of this city's website, and it is here.
So what we're talking about is not creating updated, three new things. We're talking about getting clear on the advisory board's purpose and some of this other attendant language around expectations. And then we're going to put it in different places, right?
I think so.
Okay.
And that should be the springboard for what we ask people who are applying.
Right. Okay, so process question. Where do you want to take it from here?
I'd love to see all this stuff Katie pulled together, and maybe if all that could all be pulled together and shared with everybody, then we could all come back with a better idea.
I'm willing to work on a draft. I don't know if anybody else has the time and inclination, because I'm happy to let somebody else take a stab at it too. I don't want to put too much on Barbara because she's already going to be revising our public comment piece. But to kind of incorporate this language, the thoughts, kind of bring it all together and consolidate it.
I think that's great, Katie. But one thing, the reason I came here actually was to look and see if the application was on here, and because there are no open seats, the application isn't on here. And so I think that would be helpful too. And I only have, I have a sheet for myself when I applied, but it only has 2 of the questions in it that I wrote out more in depth. So I think that would be helpful too.
Could we, yeah.
For your process or whoever is going to start us off.
I think,
We can get a copy of the application. What I'm proposing is, because this has kind of gotten bigger now, and we're talking about more than just the 4 or 5 questions in the interview, and it's all great and it's all needed, and I'm totally here for it. I'm feeling that to pull something up on a screen and have an informed conversation about it, it'll go better once we take this next step of looking at and sharing all this other information. So everyone on the board gets to read through what you posted in the chat, Katie. We get to find a copy of the application questions and everyone looks through those. And so we come back in another month or so and have all of that in our heads when we start talking about whittling it down.
And I think rather than having one
Love
person
it.
start drafting, I think we should all be looking at the same information. Because we don't know, we don't know what everybody else is looking at or going to look at. And so I think, Katie, if you could send me all that stuff you cut and pasted maybe to Tracy, and then if we could get a copy of the application. But I will say, you know, my application disappeared after I sent it out. There was no way for me to retrieve it.
But for those
Yeah,
of
that's
us
true.
who interviewed applicants, we might have received copies.
I know, no, but I'd always thought there should be a button that says, here, you can print out your application or see it, because by the time you guys reached out to me, I'd already reached out and said, oh, can you tell me who you was elected, because I never heard back from anybody. Well, I can remember what I put in my application.
Yeah. It's true.
What did I promise?
That's a request for the city webmaster. That's a really good idea, though.
Yeah, I wrote an email back to the clerk that,
I got it.
you know, and asked her about it, so maybe they've done it, I don't know. Who am I looking at here?
Well, we've got the questions anyway. Yeah, there's an application packet, so I can at least share the questions if we don't have a blank form. I'll just redact all of the personal information.
Well, I like your idea about getting all the information.
Yeah.
Everybody looking
So
at it,
all-
coming back and
Okay.
having another talk about it as an.
So you're moving to what?
I am moving that we collect what information is out there that's available on the web
Yeah.
and on the application itself, so that we can review and revise public-facing information about the advisory board, as well as the interview guide we use for interviewing candidates for the advisory board.
Okay.
I second
All right. Next month's agenda is going to look very similar to this month's agenda.
Well, but this is our first step to, you know, talk about it.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just being playful.
Because I didn't even, I thought maybe somebody else was going to walk in here, you know, with like, here's what they ought to look like, and so I was more like, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
So I needed to have a discussion before I could.
Yeah. I'll think about it.
Anything else about this? Questions, comments, requests for additional references? Thank you. It makes me happy that everyone's engaged by this kind of thing. But yes, I guess it kind of makes sense too.
Well, I think we can be better board members if we all explore together what it is we think we're supposed to be doing.
Oh, sure.
And then what we don't want to ask potential new members.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of energy and ideas, which makes it just more enjoyable to go through. For me, anyway.
I want to write that annual report.
That was one of the things I was glad to not do after I retired.
Yeah. Old business. We're moving on.
So that's my topic of budget, just to update you where that stands in the city. So the month of September, well, it's actually starting in August, is when the city manager starts presenting the budget to city council. And so before I tell you specifics to the library, I will say that the city council has not yet, and signed off on the 2026 budget. I wouldn't anticipate really anything changing to the library, but I just want to start by saying that. The good news is, in comparison to my 2 previous years of budgeting, the library is actually getting a little bit more this year than we have, in part because of the way I constructed some of my budget requests, particularly with things like ebooks and e-audiobooks. For some reason, it didn't really occur to me until this budget process here that the cost of those things have increased dramatically over the last 10 years. As most people know, and libraries pay a premium, particularly for e-audiobooks in comparison to those new technology. And but our budget has not increased to keep up with that, right? So it's a disservice. So I'm happy to say that in between both, we separate both adult ebooks, e-audiobooks, and children and teen. But between the two, we'll be getting about 70-some thousand increase, which is really just to get us to where we can afford what they cost.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that. And then in the sense of going forward, it's really a percent increase, right? So when we put in budget requests, and I do this for other things, so when I say we haven't gotten anything, we do get some increases for things of what we call level 1 requests, which I've talked about before, which are increases to things we have that we have no control over. So think of things like database subscriptions or collections that usually every year I can count on about a 3% increase to what we pay. I can't control it, so I ask for the money to support that increase. What I've never done before is made the same request specific to ebooks and audiobooks. So I caught us up from the last 10 years of that. Going forward, I'll make the same request. I don't think it's going to be $60,000 or whatever every year. But that would be a level 2 request, which I also made to get money in addition to that for that particular category, which we didn't get. But I will sidetrack for a second when it comes to those level 2 requests, which is usually things like that, where I ask for budget to get us to a level of service for a city this size, blah, blah, blah. I've talked about it a lot. Usually personnel is in there where I want to add staff or increase staff from where they are full-time, things like that. Currently, across the city, from the general fund anyway, there is not one department that got a level 2 request. There are some outside of the general budget, but those are different funds, and they don't really count in that sense because they're funded elsewhere. So we weren't singled out, I guess, in that sense. And who knows? There's still some projecting and forecasting for next year when it comes to our finance officers, with sales use tax, property tax, or maybe it looks different, that they typically operate pretty cautiously with these things, and so that's where we haven't seen any approvals for level 2 for the library. There's always a chance when some of these numbers come in that they could amend some of that, even post council signing off on it. But I obviously never really count on that. One advantage of being conservative, I think, is that we're not in a situation like the city of Denver and others who are in really bad financial situations. Like my colleagues at Denver Public Library have furlough days, they're on a hiring freeze, they're one step closer to layoffs. So, I'm pleased that we're not there, and it doesn't seem like we're anywhere near that, but, I'm knock on wood anyway. So getting back to specifics in the budget, that's one category where we'll see some increase, more than we've seen, obviously. Other of those level 1s include some staffing things, and which does include some staff. So we did get some part-time staff dollars increased, which will help, particularly within children's department and our CERT department, which children's has always been understaffed, and they both are. And then CERT staff is our largest department within the library, and they've always they pretty much operate on part-time staff. So I was pleased that that got basically converted to a level 1 request, not by me, but my boss changed it, and that was accepted. So that's why we saw that increase to some staffing, which I haven't seen yet since I've been here. And then other percentage increases, like to our Marmot membership, that pays for our library, our ILS, all that stuff. Other technologies, database subscriptions. So some of it's pretty nominal, but I always put it in, and those are fine. And then I put in this year one-time request, right, which sounds like what it is. So I'm asking for money to use once for a thing. Usually it's a project of some sort. And I put in a few this year, and all but one got accepted, which is great news. So that will include upstairs. We're going to build some kind of glass enclosure and start our own adult literacy center. We already have the space for it because we moved all our auto manuals into the regular collection and opened up. It's in the back corner. If you ever go upstairs, way in the back where it's the quiet area. So we'll put that up at some point, and then it'll turn into something where there are, of course, literacy-based, language-based. We might get volunteers. We're hoping to get volunteers that can maybe help people with citizenship. So it's across the gamut. So long term, think back to the strategic plan, that's all stated, so that actually fits really nicely in there. We got funds to basically complete what we did in the children's area last year with all the new shelving, and now we can complete it with by updating the teen portion of that area. So we'll have, and some of that shelving is pretty bad and actually not library quality, so it's dangerous, but we got one-time funds to do that. I mean, it's not dangerous, it's bolted to the wall. Still, it's quite a bit different. And it'll make the whole area back there look uniform, which is also nice. And then our PA system, if you've ever been here at closing, and if you have been, sometimes you hear the closing messages and sometimes you don't, because it's way, way old. And they're pretty expensive to replace, but we got the funds for that. Part of my justification for that too is it also can serve as an emergency message system for people in the library, like if we're in a lockdown or something, things we don't like to think about. It did happen, I don't know, a year or so ago. There was some activity on the outside, and so we were instructed to lock all the doors and keep them locked, but our PA system was kind of a little flaky, so we ended up just walking around telling people what was going on. Anyway, not ideal, obviously. And then 2 of our self-checkouts in children's are the oldest that we have, and so we got funds to do those. We'll do the others too from a different fund in the next year or two and get all those upgraded. So, and then we'll be getting some, it's kind of a smaller item, but it will be very helpful. We're getting a bunch of new book carts for the circuit department, some to add and then some to replace some very old ones where the wheels always fall off. Probably partially from taking them outside. They're not meant for off-roading, so to speak. So that's what we're anticipating to get in the budget. So, as far as it goes, I guess, I'm pleased that we'll get some increases where we need it. I wish I would have thought about the percentage increase to the digital products a long time ago, but that's okay in the sense that we'll get it and we'll be able to get a lot more there. If you use Libby, and particularly for popular things, I'm sure you're well aware of long hold wait lists for things. I know I am. So
I got a comment from a number of the callers about that.
Yeah, it can be, and that's half of what we do is we just try. We don't even have a large collection. Luckily, we're a part of the Front Range Digital Library, so we share that. Of course, with Boulder, Louisville, Lafayette, Loveland, and Westminster's in that. So the collection is large, but what we specifically buy, we don't add a lot of new stuff to it. All we do is we buy on holds, right? Because it's 100 deep, so we buy copies so that it can now be 95 deep. You know, I mean, it's just like, you're always trying to catch up. So this will help a little. I don't think it's not going to fix it yet, but so that's my budget update, I guess. Pending any questions.
What was the request that, you said all of the one-time requests were accepted or approved except for one?
Oh, one, yeah, the one we did not get was to replace 2 of our staff printers. I mean, not just small desk printers, right? These are the massive, like Xerox kind of things. And the reason I think they didn't is they want us to explore maybe either other agreements, like lease agreements. And that one, actually, out of all of them, was the least critical. It was sort of just put in there. We may be able to get that done in different ways. And it doesn't have a public impact too. I mean, certainly we need it, but you know, all the other things are very much public impact. So, yeah, that was the one.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Other questions? Thank you. I was so excited about the budget update that I skipped over new business D item, but we'll just roll that into when we get to talking about upcoming engagement opportunities. We'll just take a few moments and debrief from Unity in the community, where I also got a comment about the long holds. And Katie, did you get were you talking to somebody at one of the concert outreach events about, I have a memory of you talking to a patron about, they were talking about the holds for online.
Yes. What specifically were you thinking though?
Oh, just, that you were
Yes.
advising.
Oh,
that
I know what it was.
you have the
What was
different library
that?
cards.
Yeah, there was a different that I know is offered in Boulder. Actually, it wasn't me who brought this up. I think it was somebody that had spoken with Charlene, had mentioned that there's maybe it was them. I don't know, but there's an app that the Boulder Library uses, and I know some other, like Hoopla.
Yeah.
Oh, we get asked, I can tell you right now, we get asked all the time about Hoopla and Canopy. We don't have streaming services there. That's in my request every year of level 2 to have funds where we could get us our own subscription to these things, because we get asked all the time. We offer no streaming platforms like those 2, which are hugely popular and they're hugely expensive. Canopy is a little bit better. Hoopla is outrageous. Or it can be, actually, what I should say, but just to interject there. That's definitely a
That
goal
was
of ours.
the comment that the person told me, was that they go to the one at the Boulder Library because they can get stuff.
Yep.
And they couldn't get it on Libby.
We're going to move on to reports.
Okay, I have 2 reports, both kind of updates from previous. One is on the whole pickup lockers, and we met with our vendor, I think it's been 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago now, and met with the project manager for that and have a little bit more sense of a timeline. And there's still things that need to be signed and some things have to be done, but if it goes on schedule, it won't be probably until January or February where it's fully installed and functional, which isn't horrible. I say all the way. I guess in my mind I was like, don't you just have these things sitting around? But there's a lot. Yeah, right. Just put it there. There's still some things to do. As I've mentioned, we have one slated at Centennial Pool outside on that plaza, but we actually need to go out there with facilities and one of the city project managers, make sure that plaza is level enough, can handle the weight. There's things to still check with that. So, and I have a meeting scheduled with them and our IT department the week after next. I sent them all the specs. That was one of the things I got out of that meeting, so that they can look at network requirements, all of those things that are involved. One good thing I'm hopeful for, particularly when it comes to IT, is that the vendor is the same vendor that we have for our automated sorter, which means they're already plugged into the city network. It's already synced with Sierra. There's a lot of things in place. They're a vetted vendor in that sense.
Yeah.
That helps a lot, where we're not trying to bring a new vendor into the city and get on the network. And then, because there's always hiccups there, like someone uses a different network protocol that we don't allow here, things like that. So I'm optimistically confident, I guess, that should be fine, because they already exist. Hopefully I'm not proved wrong. So that's where that is. The second locker is kind of a TBD thing, right? Because the plan is to go with the new Ascent housing up on over 17th. I did do, I was going to say a drive-by, but let me rephrase that. I drove by. I was curious, where they were, and this was 2 weeks ago, and it's actually coming along pretty quick. So once that's all said and done, we need to go out there and see what space looks like, and where this could go, plus a book drop, because I'll want a book return drop there, just like we're doing at Centennial. So, so that's still the current plan. No timeline on that. Before I go to my next report item, is there any comments or questions on that?
Did you have any concept of a date when you might go live on the locker, or something?
It'll be January or February, hopefully, pending a lot of steps before that. And it would probably be there, if the project timeline goes the way it was mapped out, it would probably be shipped here and installed maybe even in December or early January. But then once it's there, then you have to get into all the integration points and training and things like that. And lucky for us, it'll be winter and outside, so obviously there'll be no issues.
But people are wondering about the rollout. You can say sometime in
the new year. Yeah. So put your snow boots on and come check out the locker. Okay. Anything else on that? Okay, and then I have an update on the train that I brought up last month. Since then, and I don't remember if I mentioned this last month, after I sent my initial communication to the train club, I was trying to reach out and have a conversation with them, and was not really having a ton of success, but I did. I got a hold of the club president. We had a good conversation. I said, look, I brought this up a year ago of sizing it down, and I was told it wasn't possible. I'm still open to that, because we do have space elsewhere in the library, just not there. In the lobby or something, and it could still be enjoyed. And so we had a good conversation, and he was bringing that information back to their club meeting. And then last week, I met with him and one of the other club members, as well as my boss and my boss's boss, and had another good conversation about it. And the result of that was they are going to go back to some contacts they know. No one in the club feels they have the ability to construct a whole new train layout themselves at this point in their lives, but they know a lot of people. Whether it's a private organization that may have a cost, or possibly there's a lot of model train clubs around, and so they obviously have a lot of contacts. I shouldn't say obviously. They said they have a lot of contacts with these places, and we did a little walk around and identified some spots. So they're going to get back to us in 2 or 3 weeks to see if anyone would be willing to help build a new layout that could go in our atrium, like before the lobby, right? Which, people may have different thoughts on that. I think that would make it enjoyed by everybody. And by the way, the train used to exist here. The actual train that's still here has moved 4 times. And why? Because of space needs. So it's just that we've always found space in the library. It was where its original location is where the old pickup shelves are. And so we needed, this is so long ago that we now have self-service holds, which is in high demand. And so, again, because of the size of it, we had to move it. So we moved it somewhere in the lobby, and then we outgrew that. And that was actually, I think a large part of that was the Friends wanting a larger presence for their bookstore, which also funds the library, obviously. And then it went into children's. And then it stayed there, but it actually did move once more when we did all the shelving and needed to shift to make space. So I would hope maybe by next meeting I'll have another update if we hear back from them.
So, but last time you were talking about you didn't want the train and that, so now that's changed and now you're
What can't happen is we can have a train in the library, I can't have one in children's.
Right.
I mean, they've been asking, and we've identified for years that we need space for what I mentioned last month, collections and programs and educational spaces. And in part because a lot of the children's programs exist either in this room or the meeting room, which are public spaces. They really should be doing those in the children's department. And that still won't be all of them, because if you ever come to a baby story time, there's 70 some people there, so that's always going to not fit in children's, but other ones would. And actually, the plan for that is something similar to what I mentioned with the Adult Literacy Center, which would be an enclosed space to do maybe some smaller programming that then can kind of minimize some noise from other things going on, smaller educational things. You know, there's a lot there. So I think that, so my goal is I need space in children's. If we can have a train somewhere else and someone can help do it, I'm happy to have a train here. I know there's a lot of love for it. I know there's a lot of history with it. So I think in my initial communication to the train club, it maybe sounded like I wasn't willing to talk. So that's on me, but I got a hold of them and we'll see if we can get somewhere.
And so, did you have a feeling that the club president was going to go back to the individual club members and say, let's all
I think so.
kumbaya and let's not go to the city council and let's not.
Oh yeah, I think and some of the heat that kind of came on right away in the next door post, I mean that's quieted down. I think I had a couple of emails sent directly to me, which I fielded from residents. Actually, very reasonable conversations about it, and staff haven't really fielded any more questions or concerns about it. I am not aware of anyone going to council. I think that me talking to him probably helped, and when I had that initial conversation with the president, their club meeting was 2 days later. Mm-hmm. So I think probably in sharing that we were talking about some other ideas of where we could sell on a train was helpful. And when we had the meeting, and I was they asked me to re-explain why this kind of has to happen at all, and I felt like, and I had never met the club president until that day, but he seemed to understand the growth of the library and things change. He initially was coming into it with, I agree, this is huge, and we don't actually have a space. Like, the club doesn't have a space. They schedule meetings, but there's not like a headquarters where they could just take this back until the future. So it would have to either go away or they would have to dismantle it. I said, if something can happen where we can get a train out here, I won't get rid of that train until we have another train. So I'll buy some time there, and I feel like that softened some of that. I think that I'll admit, from some previous experience with the train club, some of them are they're not as easy to talk to as others, and they've put some things in the layout there that the patrons complained about that they found offensive, with not the train stuff, but the little decorations. Yeah. And so we've had conversations with that, and they're just very dedicated and they're very nostalgic about it. And I understand that a lot of people are. So anyway, I think,
Sounds like a good progression.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we'll see what happens, when I hear from them, and, and then we talked internally about, okay, if something can happen, kind of some timelines or something, we're trying to be generous with them in this sense. I mean, the reality is it was donated, it's our property, but I don't want to handle it like that, I never did. It's their, I really consider it theirs. They put a lot of time and effort into it at the time. So anyway, that's my update there.
Is there any kind of, did you have a timeline for when or do you have concrete plans for that space? And did you
We do.
have timelines for when you want to start using that space?
No, I mean, because I'm trying to be flexible with this. So I feel like when we have a plan, we can come up with a time. Let's just hypothetically say they found some people that are going to build a whole new layout that'll fit out here. It's going to take 6 months. It's going to take whatever. Then we'll leave it, and we'll kind of postpone any plans we have for that space until this is built, and then we can work with them in dismantling that and however they want to handle that, and then we'll have the space. So try to balance that. Yeah.
Thank you. Navigating all of
I'm
this.
sure it's been fun.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised that there's been, certainly some comments and feelings about it. And, it's changed, and like I think I probably said that last time, it's changed, but it's, I don't know. In some ways, and of course I've not been here quite 3 years, but I think this has been discussions long before I was here. Like, this is just really taking up too much space. And actually, one of the other gentlemen that was in that meeting shared with us that when the train was initially brought here 30 years ago, the library reached out to them a week later and said, "This is way too big. We can't have it. Please take it back." And I think that there was, that didn't happen for whatever reason, and it stayed. So it was. I guess I say that because I'm not creating something new here. It was 30 years ago. Someone said this is way too big, and that's not reason enough.
But 30 years ago, though, we
It
had
was
a
way
smaller
different.
town, and we had a library that was big enough to meet the needs of everybody in the community,
Right.
which isn't the case anymore.
No, and that's what, and we've tried to make it work by moving it 4 different times. And like I said, I did ask them last year if I could size it down. I don't know anything about trains. I'm like, can you just cut this in half? Which I realized wasn't probably something they could do, but can we have half of this? Can you, or get a new case and then kind of, I don't know what you guys do, but they just said that was not possible. So we waited a year.
I mean, it does have 2 different trains,
Yeah.
2 separate tracks.
It's pretty elaborate.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty elaborate.
Probably said this last month, but I just think it's worth pointing out or naming out loud that the time, the amount of time and care that you have put into stewarding that relationship and the communication, and you certainly would have been within your rights as director to make decisions and take actions without so much communication and willingness to have a conversation. All of that reflects the Longmont Library out in the community. So, whether they agree with decisions that are made or not, you have more people who are having an experience of you, which is representative of the library, as someone who maybe prioritizes that human connection above just like, FYI, this is happening, and I wish that was something that I saw more commonly, in the world right now, and just wanted to point it out that you didn't have to go to the lengths that you did, and what will come from this, I think will be all the better for it. So yeah, thank you for, I don't know, representing the library's values so in the community.
Well, thanks for trying. And we'll see if I hear from them before next month.
Right.
Maybe I'll have more info.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't hear from them, I'm going to follow up anyway.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
there is a side of this where I can't just wait for a year for them to get back to me.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's all my reports for me.
Thank you.
For the library.
We have a council report.
Middle budget.
Don't talk to me.
Middle
Yeah.
budget.
More caffeine.
Yeah, more caffeine, yes, yeah. We always think, oh, it's not gonna be so bad, and then people start asking questions. It's in the packet.
Yeah, I was at council last Tuesday.
Yeah.
No, well, that wasn't even budget. Anyways.
Budget. I did attend the, so I volunteer with the senior centers, the food distribution. We served over 200, gave free food. So what they do is, they pick up their ticket. We have all this food that has been collected from King Supers and different donation spots, and produce, meat, dairy. We have all the stuff. And seniors come through and just fill up their basket, and they go on their way. And it was the biggest we've seen since we started in June. So it's very exciting, but it also tells you that there's a need. So that was very exciting to be a part of that. There's more happening.
Are there any upcoming dates, like for council meetings that?
It's all, right now we're doing budget. I'm trying to think if we have anything big that's coming our way. I mean, we did reject the sit and lie ordinance. I know that was a hard topic. Monday I have a meeting with the nonprofits Annie and Millie, Hope, Rocky Mountain Equality, and Recovery Cafe. So I initiated that to meet with them, and it was like, okay, this, and I've heard from multiple agencies and councils that I sit on through the National League of Cities. It's like, we've tried this in our community, it doesn't work, it adds an extra layer of enforcement, and were you there when they announced how many officers?
Yes.
The public safety one, so we're at the same numbers of patrols that we were, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
So we've increased, population-wise, we've increased a lot, but we're not adding more officers to accommodate this load. So then we're putting another ordinance that may not necessarily be able to be enforceable. There is, however, just between the time that we heard the first round to this round, when we were talking, CDOT has now ran a requirement, it's written in the law, that they're having their own basically sit and lie law. So the state then will be coming in, so that's really going to affect the 66, 119, and 287. But for us, the big one will be 119 and 287, where there'll be signage, but it's really then going to be the state being the enforcer.
Right.
And, so that's why I kind of moved along. It's like, okay, well, we need to sit down with our nonprofits and see what solutions we can bring to the table. So then if it's not necessarily this sit and lie ordinance, let's come up with something that can be helpful to community as well as the people impacted. Cool. I think that's it.
So now I will ask anyone who volunteered at Unity in the Community, which was a very different event from the concerts that we did outreach at.
food wise, but not with the library. I stopped by, but that was all.
Is there anything about that experience that you wanted everyone to know about? How or when, differences, themes?
I mean, it was a little different than the other one, and we were in a different location. But then there were other booths around.
I mean, I can speak to previous Unities that I've been at, which isn't been a ton, but they always kind of put us right there in front of the doors, and I think it's as a favor, which I didn't mind when it comes to setup and cleanup. But I shouldn't say but, like, a lot of Unity, a lot of the traffic is out on the street because that's where all the food and drink is, and other vendors.
Blocked us off when they put up the silent disco. It was not a path to get to our.
Yeah, and
Very
then
challenging, yes.
when it got dark, they started the silent disco,
Yes.
which was actually pretty fun to watch.
Yeah.
And you're right.
But several people I know said, "Oh, I wanted to come to your booth, and we couldn't get through, and they told us we couldn't get through."
Yeah, so maybe a little feedback for the chamber on that side of things, but what I will say that in general, we had pretty good traffic. I mean, I've been there one other time, and it was pretty quiet the whole time. So I think in that sense, I was pleased with that. Maybe a few people with the disco couldn't get through. At the same time, it was dark and there's just not great light there, and so it kind of allowed us to just kind of take it down and not have to be there as late without the traffic there.
There
Not a
really
bad
was
thing.
a lot of interest, and a lot of people with just a whole range of questions.
Yeah.
I think everyone got educated in signing up for the library.
Yeah. Well, good.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, everyone can do it. Just fill this out.
At least, I mean, I left
Yeah.
early, but I think we've given out at least 5, and then answered a whole bunch of other questions. My experience was that we had more engagement, and there were more people. The people who did come to the table were asking library-related questions. It wasn't just, I don't know, what are you giving away? We did have a lot of traffic. They were just looking for the sticker on their passport.
Oh, yes.
But we just used that.
But a lot of people wanted to know about the language programs.
Yes.
They're very interested in library things, the backpack things that you can check out.
Yep.
Yep.
There's a lot of questions.
And the event that's coming up, the Level Up, the video. So there's 2 engagement opportunities, and I think you had a couple of things that you could add about the Level Up, right? Because it was more, the Level Up Longmont, if you don't know about that event, I think it's on the 27th, right?
Yep.
And it's going to be gaming and competitive games on the big screen, and race car simulator, and on. Big, awesome thing. The invitation is more to take a volunteer shift supporting the event as opposed to popping up a standalone table that says, Longmont Advisory Board.
Yeah, I think Tracy has a lot more on that, I think, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was suggesting when we chatted about it last, is how the board could be involved, and it would be just kind of supporting what we have existing. And some of that could look, assisting with some of the games we have on the plaza area, or the actual library card sign-up booth that we'll have, things that we already kind of have in place and in plan, but just kind of offering that volunteer support for those. So if there's any interest, that would be where we would need the support from, really.
And then how would we communicate our willingness to volunteer?
I mean, right now is fine if anyone wants to indicate their interest. Otherwise, you can just reach out to me if you have separate interest from the board or however that looks. Ideally, as soon as possible, so we can kind of get the plan finalized for that kind of that support for volunteers. But yeah, I mean, kind of just think on it, really.
Remind us of the hours you're looking for.
So essentially 11 to 5 is kind of what we're focusing on for volunteer support. Realistically, it can go beyond that, but 11 to 5 is kind of the ideal time frame of when the actual event will be happening, and we'll need the most volunteer support for sure.
How have you been recruiting volunteers so far?
So up until basically early, like September 1st, essentially, we had a form that could be filled out, and it was publicized on our website and everything through that. So that's where we got the majority of our volunteers. And they're just individuals, so not like organizations or anything. And then the kind of going along with that was the the booth and table like registration. Obviously, they're organizations, but it was also kind of voluntary to have them sign up. If they indicated they want to be part of the event. But volunteers was similar to that with that timing. It's essentially by September 1st, we had everything finalized. But we're definitely looking for, any kind of support. We don't necessarily need any specific like booths or anything like that from the board if anyone's interested, but we definitely have places you could be if you wanted to kind of have that presence for sure, or even just as an attendee too.
I mean, the t-shirts for volunteers are cool.
Okay.
The whole theme of it, like she
Yeah, I can share some stickers. There's some logo stickers here from it.
Ooh.
So you're welcome to take a look at
There's been a real big marketing push on this, and the staff member Donald, some of you know Donald, who kind of has had this vision for a while, but he put together this committee, and they've been working extremely hard on this, but he has gotten some radio interviews. I think the paper did a front page article on it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk.
Who came up with the name and the logo?
Our Mark, well, actually Tracy can answer that.
So the logo was created by our communications department in the city. Largely was the person on our library team. But then, it was kind of a push from that whole
That's so
team.
cool.
And Level Up Longmont, I believe, was it was more of a collaborative kind of thing. We had several different options when we first kind of initiated all the different planning meetings of what we were considering and things like that. And I think we landed on that one because it felt like it was kind of a legacy name for this event if we were to bring it back annually. So it just felt like it rang well, essentially. That's what we felt. So, yeah.
Alliteration always works.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to give a couple hours that day, and I can follow up outside the meeting on details.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chief.
So the initial.
Can you try to hold it up to your camera?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what? Let me. Let's see.
Yeah, Susie, that'll work too.
Oh, no, this way.
Oh,
So
cute.
just
And then
pretend
this
it's
one. Are you able to see it looking forward, or is it reverse?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's perfect.
Okay. Oh, excuse me.
The initial volunteer sign-up form has been taken down, right? Or is it still
Yes,
there?
it's currently not open.
Right.
We do have all the shifts covered and everything, but we're happy to take on any additional support. There may not be specific, like assignments essentially, but we'll still be able to, work it in. So for sure, if anybody's interested.
So
and even if you're
volunteering you'll be on a
interested,
need-to-know basis.
okay.
Sounds fun.
Yeah,
Good
but
cultivation.
reach out to me. We will most likely will need support, and then if there's any kind of cancellations or anything like that, that would be helpful to have some extra bodies. So happy to take on any extra support.
And then there's the Friends of the Library book sale, which is actually starting this week on Wednesday. And I don't know if they are still looking for volunteers, but when I looked at I was very busy, and it took me a while to even open up the sign-up link. And when I did, I was surprised at how few people had signed up, because normally I open it up as soon as it hits my inbox, and I just couldn't get to it for like a week. And then I was like, oh, all the good shifts are going to be gone. And there were not a ton of people signed up. Now, I do think that they're doing the signups a little bit differently this time. It seems like that they are having Friends Board members cover the checkout table because they weren't soliciting volunteers for that specifically. So they may actually have more people involved than it looks like because this is just the public facing.
I think actually they're kind of concerned about
All of it?
about how much they're hoping more people will come in at the last minute and sign.
Yes, yes. So I'm sharing that with,
Yes.
with this group.
And Wanda also said, you know, if any of the board members want to come at any time, just drop in and help us with the front desk.
Cool.
I'm not jumping into anything because the end of the month is when my daughter has to move and stuff is not done. It's just too much right now.
I understand.
But I will volunteer the next time for the book sale. 'Cause
Yeah.
I would be very happy to do that.
Well, I like having this as upcoming opportunities.
Yeah.
And it wasn't mine, it was either Tracy's idea or Tom. But to have it as a standing agenda item, because it's not pressure, like if there is something pressurized, I can't even imagine, but it would appear elsewhere. It would be a more prominent agenda item. So this is, if one or two people are available, this is happening.
Well, I thought you signed up and Nicole signed up for the show.
Mhm.
And I've signed up for set up in Cape Town. So. And then I'm just going to drop down.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, like, if I had to move somebody, that's exactly what I would sign up.
Well,
Get out of moving.
Yeah, no, she's getting Uber this too. That's
Oh,
other
okay.
details.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, what an opportunity to be like, you know what, my schedule's full.
Yeah, no, I feel better.
Instead of saying, like, my back hurts.
Right.
Yeah.
No, she's paying movers, it's just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was trying to give you an out.
Yeah, no. Oh, and then, you know, October 1st, I'm going away for 11 days, so it's.
That I remember, the pocket
Yeah.
time. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
Everything all at once.
It's all at once.
Well, so here we are at the conclusion of our meeting. Are there any last lingering comments, questions, requests for next month's agenda? Seeing none. Our next meeting is on October 20th. Please let Tracy know as soon as you can if you are not able to make it.
I will not be there next month.
Okay. And then I'm thinking probably next month, we should look out a couple months, get through the holidays and confirm whether we want to leave the meeting dates as is or if something needs a tweak. All right, meeting is adjourned at 8:55. Thank you, everybody.